Hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, welcome. Hello. Hi, everybody. Hello, I'm Meg. Thank you so much for joining me. Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. I have a very special Cherry Chat today. I get to talk with the amazing and talented Brittany Snow. I'm so excited. Brittany stars in a new film called The Good Half, which is wonderful. And it comes out in theaters nationwide, July 23rd and 25th. And you can also stream her brilliant film Parachute on Peacock now. So lots to talk about today. Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Hello. For all of you just joining, I'm talking to the wonderful Brittany Snow today about her new film, The Good Half, which is out in theaters nationwide, July 23rd and 25th. And you can also stream her brilliant film, Parachute, on Peacock now. Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. We haven't done one of these in a while. Hello, Mom. Okay, I think we have Brittany. Okay, let's see. Yes, okay. The connection works. You never know. Okay, you know what, Brittany? Let me try requesting you. Okay, invite sent. Sometimes Instagram's a little stubborn. Hmm. Hi, Mom. Okay, let me try this again. Hmm. Why is this not working? Okay, let's see. Brittany Snow's unable to join. Oh no. Okay, let's try this one more time. And if not, hop back. I'll hop off Brittany and DM you and we'll figure it out. Let's see. See if that worked. Hi everyone. Welcome, welcome. Oh yes, yay!
I was like, this is just gonna be my luck. Like, I can't ever figure this out. Oh my gosh. Hi.
Oh my gosh, hi Brittany, you look beautiful. Oh my gosh.
Thank you. I'm such a big fan of you. So I'm really excited to do this.
Stop, you're gonna like make me cry like already on a Tuesday.
Only Tuesday. Shit.
It's only Tuesday. Oh my gosh, that's so incredibly sweet. This is truly an honor. I'm so excited. I don't even know where to begin. There's so much to talk about, but thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh no, I'm so excited to be here. I actually, when I was in North Carolina, I saw, because I follow you guys anyway, I saw that there was a live going on with Courtney, and I actually I saw the tail end of Courtney's talk with you about Parachute, and I felt like a voyeur, sort of like lurking. I was like, should I be watching this? Because they're like talking about me, but it was like, it was so beautiful to hear what she thought of the movie and making it. And it was just like, it was very surreal. So I really appreciate you guys' conversation. And I don't know if I was supposed to be in on it or not, but I really appreciate it.
Absolutely supposed to be in on it. I'm so glad that you watched. And no, I mean, and if you caught that chat, you know what a huge fan I am of that film and how I felt so incredibly seen through your brilliant work. And I still like get chills thinking about it today. And I need to dive more into that because yeah, it was truly a gift that you gave us. And you can stream it now on Peacock, everybody.
Yay! Yeah.
And Courtney is so lovely.
I know.
Oh my
She's a
gosh.
dream person. I couldn't imagine or dream up a more beautiful person inside and out than that woman. She's just, I mean, I always make the joke that like giving her direction was probably the easiest thing that I've ever done. And I've actually really spoiled myself because I would tell her to do anything and she would be like, Okay. And I was like, really? I just told you to jump off of a bridge, like whatever it was, but I never told her to jump off of a bridge. But she was just so open and genuine and really present with me, and I'm so grateful for her.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I definitely want to get to that and talk more about your work as a filmmaker. But I want to jump into, well, first off, I ask this question to everybody because I think it's so fascinating and everyone seems to have a different answer. But when did you first fall in love with storytelling, or rather connect with its power to create empathy, to educate, kind of like its magical quality?
That's a really good question. I think that probably I first and I've talked about this a lot about when I was on a soap opera. That was when I first fell in love with acting
Mm.
because I really realized that I could use my own teenage angst for good instead of evil in a way. And I could channel all of the emotion and sensitivity that I had into a medium that was useful and therapeutic. And I was only 12 when I was on that soap opera. But the first time I think I fell in love with storytelling in that aspect was probably when I was on American Dreams,
Mm.
and I realized that there was so much camaraderie on set. There was this like power of filmmaking that we were all collectively telling a united story that people really resonated with, and families were uniting and coming home to watch it in their living rooms, and it felt like the story that we were telling was really important, and it was also very useful because it was bringing together a lot of people. And I feel like a lot of times the things that resonate the most with people are things that they connect with in terms of like, oh, they can see themselves. And I feel like American Dreams was a great place where a lot of people saw themselves with whatever character. There were so many different people going through so much in that show.
Absolutely. I have such a vivid memory of when that show premiered. I was back in Rhode Island at one of my best friend's house and we like watched it. We were all like, oh, this is special. And I
Oh,
just like, it's so funny. And like, I haven't thought about that moment. You just brought me back to that kind of like, where you can look to the person next to you and you can start to like have, it creates conversations or creates this kind of collective response that is so, it's those butterflies. It's something that you can't necessarily put into words that like all connects us, through this powerful medium. And that's what you did. That's what you did with Parachute. And that's what, your beautiful new film, The Good Half, does. It creates this cathartic response that I think is like, I get like a little I get a little peeved when people say like, "Oh, like films are meant to be entertaining." It's like, "Yes, of course they're meant to be entertaining, but it's a missed opportunity when like I don't when people don't make the connection that it's like no matter what you're watching, it's seeping into your brain. It's making an impact. Whether it's like the fluffiest of fluff or it's the most serious content, it's like creeping inside of you in some way.
mhm.
So why not try to make that connection? Um, and and the more that I've was really reflecting on your beautiful career and really like the projects that you've aligned yourself beautifully with, and and create it yourself. There's this wonderful through line of of connection, of empathy, of creating discourse, and like how powerful.
That is very nice. I wish I could collectively look back at my work and think that fondly of all the choices that I've made because I don't. But I think that's true. I'm going to butcher this quote completely, but I think the lovely and icon Julianne
Hmm.
Moore said once that like we don't go to the movies to see characters, we go to the movies to see ourselves. And that's not exactly what she said, but let's just pretend it was.
Hmm.
And I think that that's what's really true about really good storytelling and filmmaking is that we want to resonate with these stories regardless of they're sad or happy or they're monsters or aliens. I mean, I think you're really looking for the human connection and the humanity in those things. I mean, like a prime example is like there's a reason that Inside Out, one of my favorite movies, is so big. Is like you're watching an animated movie, but you're also watching yourself. And so
Hmm.
I think that that's a huge part of how I make my choices, and that means so much to me that you've
Oh,
saw that.
yeah.
That's very, very
Oh,
sweet.
Absolutely. And to your point about Inside Out, it's like it's about like humanizing all the emotions, right? The good, the bad, the ugly. Um, and I think that's what you brilliantly did in Parachute. You just laid your soul out for us and to connect with and to like reflect on ourselves and be like and to eliminate shame that might have been buried. And like I said, how powerful. Um, well, let's talk about The Good Half, which this film was an official selection at this year's Tribeca Film Festival. I love this movie so much. Um, and it follows Ren, played by Nick Jonas. Go Nick Jonas.
He's
Which
incredible in this movie. I'm so excited for people to see him. I know everyone, knows how talented he is, but
um,
he really showcases something that I think is going to be very surprising for people. So I was so proud to be alongside of him in this.
oh, absolutely. And the two of you play siblings, and for me, it's such a beautiful exploration on grief and loss and how not everyone grieves the same and how that can be really difficult, especially in our time of need when we look to our, whether it's our partner or our loved ones or our siblings, and we can't really understand why we're not kind of grieving in the same way. And there can be judgment about that. And yeah, let's start off with, can you describe your character Lee for us?
Sure. Yeah. Lee, is she's based on a real person. My friend Brett Ryland, who wrote the movie, he's one of my very good guy friends, and the character of Ren is based off of him. And it's a little fantastical. There's things that happen in the movie that didn't happen to Brett, but his sister Lee is based on a real person, and I think that she is sort of the encapsulation of how people grieve in a very logical and analytical way of making things make sense and compartmentalizing and not really leading with emotion, but leading with knowing the parameters of how to deal with each situation as it comes and not really getting outside of that control. When I like do my characters or when I study them, I always do, which is sort of strange, but I do like anagrams. Um,
Oh,
and just because I think it's like a really nice blueprint of like what a human can be, and then I kind of
mhm.
create this whole sort of thing. So if anybody knows about anagrams at all, Lee is very much an eight, which Brittany Snow, I hate that I just said my last name. Why? Yeah, Brittany, like who I am, is not an eight. So I tried to like make it seem like this person who deals with grief and loss um, is living and existing in a world where it's like very um, A plus B equals C, and there's like a real encapsulation of how she handles emotions, and that can sometimes come off as rigid and controlling, but really underneath it is just so much longing for connection and not knowing how to get there. And so I really loved this character because I usually don't get to play someone so complicated and complex in terms of rigidity.
Right. I loved her so much as well. And I know like I come across as maybe like bubbly and like outgoing, but I've discovered this about myself through loss. I grieve very similarly to Lee.
Mm,
And so, and which has, I don't want to say turned people off, but has confused my inner circle, has confused, my loved ones. And I really like, I really saw her and I was like, I understand that. And I think it's so important to show the different ways in which we grieve and how, all of there's no timeline to any of this and how to sort of navigate it with like I said, with our loved ones. Because it's a whole extra layer to grief that we're not necessarily prepared for.
mhm.
Sometimes we don't really know how we're going to respond until we go through it. And then to sort of feel like maybe we have to defend ourselves in our grief,
Right.
or it adds a whole other layer to it. Um, and it's fascinating. And I thought the film did a beautiful job at that, at kind of displaying that.
I did too. I mean, I think that Brett, and Robert, who directed the movie, really did a great job of showing all the different types and not putting them in a caricature sort of way or like compartmentalizing them in terms of like this person grieves this way,
Right.
but it's sort of like ebbs and flows in a really beautiful way of you're not really sure what these characters are going to do next, which I think is sort of indicative of how you grieve in a way. Every moment is a different day and you're kind of just hoping for the best. But I like you, weirdly enough, I'm known as being very bubbly as well, and I grieve similarly of like
Right.
my body doesn't want to go
Mhm.
there, so it's like a protective shield where I'm just like nope, and then I think that's really interesting because there's so many movies where people are just having breakdowns the whole time, and I don't think that's necessarily true to life all the time.
Exactly, exactly. It just this whole film comes from such a truthful place. Um, and I think that too, I mean, like you and Nick did such a lovely job at kind of creating. Let's talk about a little bit how you worked together to create this dynamic of clearly like these two people love each other so deeply, like and but there's this disconnect that's going on,
Mhm.
and right off the bat, the minute that the two of you are in the same room together, you created this really this tension. And almost I was like, oh, am I meant to be? I love when in films when you're like, am I meant to be here? Just kind of what you were saying before,
Oh,
should
that's
should I
interesting.
leave the room, like,
Yeah.
oh, I love that. That's like where the good stuff is. Yeah, talk about creating that kind of dynamic between the two of you.
um Thank you. That's really nice that you picked up on that too, because I think that that was always sort of the underlying um, uh, current of what we wanted to create with the siblings, which is like really realistic to life. I think in terms of like, I have a brother, and sometimes it takes us a little bit of getting a running start to get back into the groove when we haven't seen each other in a while, and I think that that's sort of an interesting thing to show on screen that like sometimes you don't need to say anything because you are brother and sister, but sometimes there's a lot underneath that sort of is that tension, that tea kettle that sort of feels present. And I think the good thing working for us was Nick and I knew each other, but not very well when we
Mm,
started filming, and so there was already that sort of getting to know you sort of feeling.
yeah.
And I think that we both came with a lot of understanding of who these characters were and wanted so much of it to not be said.
Mhm.
And I think with what we were holding secret and what we were working on and also what was not said, I think really played a huge part in those little moments and silences, and I think that you can pick up on that, I
Oh,
hope. Yeah.
yeah, there's so much in the stillness in this film,
Yeah.
especially with Lee. You did such a phenomenal job with bringing so much to the stillness. Um,
Thank you.
and absolutely, yeah, it's really interesting because the older I get, the more that I appreciate when films don't really tie things up in a bow. Um, I think when I was younger, I was like, wait, what, like what's going to happen, you want that kind of resolution, but the older I get, I really appreciate deeply going on kind of the journey toward healing with characters, not necessarily saying this is the finish line, because there's no finish line, right?
Love
And
that. Yeah.
there's no finish line, surprise.
Yeah, or if there is, then it's definitely the end of the movie, and it's definitely the end of the character, and nobody, we don't want to see that over and over again.
It's the end of all of us.
Yeah,
It's like, bye, we're done. That's a wrap on life. No, but you did that in Parachute as well. I mean, it's like, and like I said, I really appreciate that. I mean, and I think too, what it gives you as actors, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is being able to really live in the present with these characters and not have to be like, okay, well, I know in like X amount of time she needs to land here or this needs to happen, but just to be in the moment with these characters. Like, can you talk a little bit about that and like how that kind of differs from like maybe past experiences of like needing to tie things up in a bow and kind of allowing these characters to breathe and change and kind of just be?
sure. I mean, I think that's one of my favorite things about the movies that I really love is that you're kind of seeing a portion of their life, and then you infer the rest with your own
Right.
backstory within your own self. And that's the type of movies that I really like. And I think that I hopefully did that with Parachute because I wanted to make sure that people knew that addiction and different types of mental health concerns don't get wrapped up in a bow. If anything, they're an ongoing, non-linear process, and the story shouldn't be having an ending. It's just a way that you get to the next phase of your life. And this was the next phase. This was the beginning of the next phase of her life. If that makes any sense. And I think with Good Half, it's sort of the same as well. Is that it's not like I love Garden State, but I think we're getting compared to Garden State a little bit, and I think that it's different in a way of like there is no ending to the movie that is like the happy romantic ending as well. We don't know where these characters are going to go at the end, not to give anything away, but I think that that's great because I don't know if you know that within grief as well. You can be 2 years down the road and someone sings a song out of the blue and it's the song that reminds you, and then you're going through the process all over again. And I think that that non-linear process is really important to showcase in this. And that's why I really loved that this is just a moment. And I think it's only, gosh, I'm bad at this, but a weekend in their life. Yeah.
Right, right. And I think too, it's like I don't want to spoil too much, but that's when the title comes into play where we find out that Lee, it's like really about this idea of kind of vocalizing what's been sitting in us for a while. And once we vocalize, then we can start the journey.
Yeah.
And it's really about that kind of in between time when where we go from like what's been kind of inside of us for so long to like getting that out. But like getting it out doesn't necessarily mean it's we did it, you know?
No, if anything, the awareness is harder because you're just like, okay, now I vocalized it, and so now I have to do something about this. But it's true, there's so many times I think in families as well where you're not vocalizing your feelings because it's sort of by rote and you know these people well, and having those tough conversations in those moments, I think is hugely beneficial. But that's where the growth is, and that's also where the hard shit is. I don't like having conversations with my family.
No, I know
You know.
exactly. Or like conversations with ourselves or
Yeah.
whoever it is. And like just to begin that is like it's a huge step. And I think that that's what's really cool about the film. And to bring it back to Parachute, because it creates that same sort of idea of like, okay, once we can like say this out loud, we can like we did it. And like that is in itself a huge accomplishment, I think, whatever it is. And yeah, it's very powerful. Let me ask you this, now that you've so poetically and profoundly shared, you know, this part of yourself as a filmmaker with us, how has your kind of perspective on creative possibilities for yourself since making Parachute changed?
Ooh. Um, I think two things have happened, both of them just as scary, which is, oh no, I'm gonna have to keep doing this because I know that I don't want to. And and two, like, oh shit, this is gonna be so hard. Because it's really hard to make the movie, and there's so many hard things in life, so it's like pull out my tiny violin about this. But it took 6 years to make Parachute from inception of the concept to like the end. And so I know that I want to keep doing it. I know that I have more stories that I want to tell, perhaps maybe not as personal. Because I need to give myself a break.
Right.
But I do think that there's something that really happened to me during the process, which is this is way more rewarding than in terms of my work experience than most things that I've done, in terms of creating something that made me get up in the morning every day and think like this is my heart. This is like what I'm supposed to do. And I'm so lucky that I got to do that. And so I think that that's been, it really did shift my perspective on why I want to work. Like, if I can do that, why would you not try, even if it does take 6 years?
Absolutely. And we're so thankful that you did. And of course, no pressure, but please do make more movies or TV. I don't know. The possibilities are endless, but
You.
yeah, truly. Well, this has been so lovely. I could talk to you for hours, but I'm not going to take up too much of your time. So at Cherry Pick, as you know, but everyone watching, at Cherry Picks, we collect reviews from female and non-binary critics, and we create a Cherry Score. So Brittany, what's the last? Not to put you on the spot, but what's the last movie you watched or rewatched or TV show that you'd give a full bowl of cherries, a 10 out of 10? What's something that really moved you?
So last night, I rewatched with a friend of mine who had not seen it, but is one of my favorite movies. And this is not even like an old movie, but it's just what happened last night. I think Arrival
Oh,
is a near perfect movie. I just think that that movie is completely. I love movies that have to do with time. I love the idea and the concept of, if you could do your life over again, would you make the same choices? I love that. I think Amy Adams is perfection in that movie. I just think that the cinematography, everything is just full bowl of cherries in that
yes,
movie.
that's so funny that you mentioned that because I was just listening to the Smart List podcast episode with Jeremy Renner,
uh,
and which was fascinating. But we're talking about Arrival, and I was like, oh my gosh, Arrival! Like, I have not watched that movie, I think, since the first time since it came out,
right.
and and I remember being so moved by it. I mean, that's like the movies too, where you think it's going in one direction whether it's because of the genre,
Mhm.
and then it just hits you with this incredibly human, human, you know, um, it's just like I just remember feeling like there's nothing better than like a twist that just like rattles you to your core.
That's
Um,
exactly what I think too. And the juxtaposition of knowing that it is such a sci-fi, over the top sort of spectacle of a movie, but then yet the core of the movie is completely human and is the most, based in humanity question. I think when you can marry those two worlds and it makes sense, it's the best of the best in terms of movies for me. I also am
okay.
like a nerd and I love space. Like, I love
You
space.
love space?
I do.
That's
Like,
cool.
I before Arrival I watched Close Encounters, and then before that I watched Interstellar. Like, I just,
I was just gonna say I just watched Interstellar and I had that same feeling and I was
yeah.
sobbing like a child, but I was like, there is something about
Yeah.
space for obvious reasons that makes us really can explore time and like the reason why we're here. It
Yes,
was like
yes.
all of this
It's all
really
of those things.
all
Yeah.
of these things. I mean, hearing you talk, Brittany, like I don't know, maybe your next project there's like a sci-fi component.
Not to not to do a spoiler of my own life, but that is what I'm writing next, is a sci-fi movie. So that's why I'm like in the mix of like rewatching all the
I
greats. Yeah.
love that. Okay, that'll be amazing. I can't wait to find out more about that at some point. But
It's gonna take me a while, so just don't
you know
wait for
what?
me.
Take all the time you need, girl. Like there's like we
Yeah.
said in the beginning of this, there's no timeline
That's right.
to any of
Right.
this, right? Like, and yeah. But anyways, you were so lovely. This was such a gift. Like, I cannot tell you what this means to me to be able to have these kind of conversations with you. You are so inspiring, and just like I said, watching your work and then what you do next and next has been so exciting. And so this was a dream come true. So
Well,
thank you.
I am such a big fan of you guys, and thank you so much for liking Parachute and X and Good Half and all the things. I'm like, oh, it's the cherry picks. They all like these. But am honored to be on here, and I will be on here anytime you want me.
Oh my God, yay! Okay, well, The Good Half, which is such a beautiful film, everybody. Like, please go watch it. It's in theaters nationwide, July 23rd and 25th, and you can stream Parachute on Peacock. So maybe double feature, like,
Yes.
you know?
If you don't get tired of me, oh my God.
No,
But
never. All right, well, thank you so much and have a lovely rest of your
thank you,
day.
you too.
Okay,
See you soon.
thanks, love.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.